Good morning to you. Morning, Spencer.
Hey, good morning.
Coming in now on the air with us, Matt Mallery, Superintendent for the Merriam Knight Schools. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to see you again in here. And as we've opened up the airwaves to the other supers around Mason County to talk about their upcoming levies that they're asking their voters in their districts to look into and make their voices heard. Your time now here for talking about the enrichment levy, the old maintenance and operation levy. The enrichment levy is coming up as well, February 11th. And we've talked with other superintendents, as I just mentioned, about their versions of this, and each one in each district is a little different. So we'll go through some of the unique qualities of what you guys are asking for.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, the community had supported a maintenance and operation levy, and they had supported a rate at $3.09 per thousand. That was the same year the legislature had enacted what was called the Mallery fix, or that levy swap. And so that year, the local levy collection was capped at $1.50 per thousand.
Mm-hmm.
And so the community supported a higher rate, but then the actual collection rate was at $1.50. And that was across the state.
Okay.
That occurred. So
hold on, let me stop you there.
ahead.
So a couple years ago when this all went through, regardless of where the district's statewide levies were at, as they were kind of understanding the ramifications of the announcements by the Supreme Court, right? They said, okay, right now everybody's going to be at $1.50.
Right.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Right. And then the difference were it was $1.50 or up to $2,500 per student, whichever was less.
Mm-hmm.
And so that caused, I think that was the year where you saw some districts or heard some districts talk about having to make some cuts.
Sure.
Because their levy dollars had been reduced,
Yeah.
somewhere 30% or more out of that. I wasn't at MMK at the time, so I don't know the exact details of that. But at this one, the board had decided this fall to run it at $2.50. Again, the community had supported the M&O levies at a higher rate, so they felt that the community was going to be supportive of this new rate at $2.50 per thousand.
Some of the things that we have been explaining to folks about the other levies across the school district, it is a replacement levy. How are you explaining that to the voters in MM?
Very clearly that this is not a new tax. This is a replacement for the one that's expiring. The labeling is different, and so I spent quite a bit of time going out with community groups trying to explain that this is not new because it's called enrichment. This is the same concept as maintenance and operation. And as soon as I say that, people go, oh, okay, yeah, I get maintenance and operation. We understand that. They were concerned that this was a brand new tax in addition to what they're already paying. So I want to make that really clear. This is just replacing the one that's going to be expiring.
And regardless of the name, as it is a replacement, where do you think folks are getting that hang up that they're thinking it is a new tax?
I think a lot of it's in the naming convention, really.
Okay.
When you go from M&O, which people understand, maintenance and operation, to enrichment, I think there's some potential suspicion of people are trying to collect new tax dollars. And so we want to make sure we're very clear on that. This is not a new tax. This is replacing the maintenance operation levy that is expiring.
The other thing that we have learned about this, and some folks have been questioning their either ability to pay based on their age or income, but there are the opportunities if you go through the assessor for exemptions.
Correct.
Explain that to us.
They can contact the county assessor's office and see if they qualify for an exemption or a reduction based on their income.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the dollar threshold for that, but if they certainly are retired on a fixed income and their property values are much higher than what they think they can afford based on their income, they can certainly make that appeal to the assessor's office to see if they can get a reduction on that based on their income.
What are some of the ways these dollars are being spent? We've heard from other district superintendents that the state kind of thinks that you should have one custodian for the entire grounds or something like that, when obviously one person to take care of an entire school grounds may not be completely feasible. What are some of the ways that this money would be spent?
So for us, we are going to spend it on some staffing, some additional staffing. We are, we're a K-12 district. We run elementary, middle, and high school. Some of our high school programs simply don't generate the dollars to support themselves without other funds being to supplement that. So with our CTE program, our vocational programs, we use some of these funds to help supply with the supplies, materials, technology for those programs. Our athletic program is the biggest benefit of this. Coaches, travel, equipment, those are the biggest biggest dollar amounts on there. We do use it for curriculum. We're looking at trying to adopt some new curriculum, but we want to wait until the outcome of the levy. Also replacing technology. Was a large investment on Chromebooks, but we're at the period where we want to do some refresh on that. We want to get some additional ones, but we also need to replace some of the ones that are outdated. And so those are some of the biggest things that we end up using the levy for. I think I'm going to add some staff if this passes. We're looking at trying to get a counselor in our building. We think we need to have that. So those will be some things that we will be doing with that. The other part of it is we are going to have some planned or potentially planned maintenance with the building. I know when looking at Shelton's literature, and it's a great saying that levies are for learning and bonds are for building. Well, we're not doing building with these things, but there are some maintenance items that we need to do to keep the facility up and going, do some basic modernization, and just keep it a safe and safe learning environment for kids and adults.
Is the success of a levy predicated on the fact that it is replaced every given year? In other words, I would assume that a levy isn't really worth the effort if it's going to expire after a year and people aren't going to vote for it again, because you're hiring staff, you got facilities, programs, all this good stuff for the kids that they need, and then all of a sudden if it's cut off, you're kind of back to square one, right? I mean, it has to be supported over time.
It's a big deal if it doesn't pass. My experience, I think Yakima School District's a great example. I think the late 90s, their maintenance and operation levy did not pass, and it's really a 2-year cycle where you have to go without those funds. And if you're looking at cutting 18 to 20% of your overall budget, you're going to have some big impacts, particularly with those enrichment activities, sports, after-school programs. That's where those districts have to look at that pay-to-play philosophy and having one team instead of having 3 or 4 different at Merriam Night. You're looking at making reductions in staff, both certificated and classified, and so it really means some really hard decisions, and maybe not replacing positions or potentially having to let go of people because they are partially paid through levy dollars. So it's pretty significant if they fail.
One thing I was thinking about earlier this morning, I told Spencer this, is if you kind of read the blogs, the social media on some of these things, there are some folks out there questioning perhaps the fiscal responsibility of the different districts and why they need this thing. And you only have to look at the fact that, well, we've had you on, we've had Superintendent Gummel on, Superintendent Apostle on, Superintendent Rosenbach on. So it is there is about 5 districts here in Mason County, all in Thurston County. People are asking for this levy thing here as well. So it's not just a one school district is saying, I need help with this thing, because we don't know where. Most of the schools are asking for this election, which leads me to believe that it's something greater than just one school that's perhaps unable to square the books or whatever you're thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that people are hesitant when it comes to government when they ask for money.
Sure.
And people don't like to pay taxes. And so they want to know where those tax dollars are going. The difference with the levy, with the local school district levy, is that those tax dollars go directly to the school district. They don't get siphoned off by county, state, other things.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that is the difference. It goes right back into the local school district.
I see.
For us and every other school districts, we have to have our levy approved by OSPI before we can go out and place it to the voters. So our process is board sets a rate. We then submit our levy plan to the state, to OSPI for approval in how we're going to spend those dollars. And then if and when it's approved, we have to make sure that we are spending those dollars according to our levy plan. And so that's the accountability process.
Yeah.
And so in our budget meetings, our public documents, we can pretty clearly state where we're putting those levy dollars that the voters have approved for that local district. The other benefit with that, and I think some of the other districts may have talked about that, is that because of our size, and we're not a property-rich district in comparison to, I guess, Olympia or some of Thurston County, we do qualify for levy equalization dollars. And that is a real boon to us at Merriam Knight. We anticipate that dollar amount to be maybe $1.2 million, $1.1 million in equalization, and so that's to help supplement our district, because we're not property rich.
Yeah.
We can't compete with those larger school districts.
Contingent on this passing, right?
It has to pass. We do not get those equalization dollars unless we pass. So, as an example, in year one of this, if it's successful, we'd be bringing in about $560,000 out of local funds. We'd be bringing in about the same amount in equalization.
Wow.
So that is where it really makes a difference for us.
Superintendent Mallery, good to talk with you. I know we have some other things to mention, but we'll save those for another conversation. The ballots should be in your households now, and again, the election for the levies countywide are February 11th, so make sure you get your ballots in by that time. And thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yep. It's